What's up, Sword Family? Um, I was going to wait until the end to do this, but screw it, who cares? I need to get something off my chest. And if we can get it out of the way, right out of the gate, then hopefully we can have, a better time after it's all said and done. So here we go. For the last couple of weeks, I have been pretending that I'm okay. But I'm not. My mental health has been basically in the toilet. I have been taking things personally that haven't, probably have nothing to do with me. My writing has suffered. My music has suffered. I haven't tuned the gujin yet. And honestly, I don't even think I've taken it out to play with it in probably 2 or 3 weeks. And my evil little voice, my imposter syndrome has been running rampant, and none of my usual tricks have been working. So, after today, I'm going to be taking a step back. I don't think right now that I can be around people that are better than me. And I know what you're all thinking. You're all thinking that none of you are. Every single one of you is more successful. You have more I don't even know how to put it. But when it comes to things that I consider myself to be good at, people don't come to me for those things. They go to other, more successful people. And so I am going to be pulling back for a little while. There's not going to be a Teahouse next Saturday, and possibly not the Saturday after that. I don't know. But I need to take some time for myself. And so when you don't see me popping up in the usual places, chats and things like that, just know that I am attempting to get my head straight. Now, this only applies to me. Foxy can comment, she can watch, she can be on the shows if she so chooses. But for me, I'm going to disappear for a little while. And I don't want people to worry. I might possibly be lurking I might not even watch at all. But I will be back. I'm just going to take some time for me. Okay. Now that all that serious garbage is out of the way, let's have some fun. Yeah? Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Terracotta Army of Emperor Shǐhuáng and a hopefully fairly short little anecdote on my own experience or experiences with the Terracotta Army. But first, comments. And first through the door at 4:14 is one of my patrons, Dan Hollyfield. Good evening, Dan. And almost an hour later is Foxy. Evening, Dan. Welcome to the Teahouse. Please like, share, and subscribe. Yes, please do. It is much appreciated. And Carl is joining us. Hello, Carl. And Donna is joining us, greeting Foxy, Dan, and the Woodsman Dude. Hello, Donna. And more greetings, and Kitty is here. Hi there. Hello, kitten. And more greetings, and more greetings. And Dawn is joining us. Evening. Hello, Dawn. And more greetings, and more greetings, and more greetings. And Ruby is here. Hey, y'all. Hello, Ruby. Glad to see you. And more greetings. Carl says, I am a hero of sorts. Figured out why Donna's new phone wasn't working right. Yeah. Those things. Ugh. I mean, I've transferred most of my own stuff. I've done it for Foxy's phones. I've done both of my parents' phones. The only one that was even remotely an issue was earlier this year. A friend of Foxy's wanted me to help her transfer her contacts and her ringtones and all of that stuff. And in 2 or 3 sessions of at least 3 hours each, so almost 10 hours in total, I accomplished absolutely nothing. And she was going from a Samsung to an iPhone, which a few years ago would have been an absolute nightmare. But now the transfers are supposedly relatively seamless. But this one wasn't. And I could not figure out why it was not working. And this was probably, at least in part, the beginning of my downward spiral, because I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. It's supposed to work. It's supposed to be easy. Wasn't working. 9 hours. And eventually she took it to like the Verizon store, and come to find out that she had bought a locked phone. So it had nothing to do with me. I was doing everything right. It was the damn phone. It was the phone's fault. But that was probably the beginning of all of this now. So yeah, technology. And more greetings for Ruby. Good job, Carl. Yes. More greetings for Ruby. Can finally hear when I get a text, which is really good considering I don't have much of a voice. Oh no. Yeah, that makes, phone calls difficult if you can't talk. That's my sweet IT man. Oh. Texts are great for sore throat, no voice. Yeah. I'm very seriously considering the next time one of the two of us gets a cold and pray to whatever deity you deem holy that it isn't as bad as the one that we had earlier this winter, where neither one of us could really talk for several months in a row. But the next time one of us is sick, just being like, don't try and strain your voice trying to yell down the hall. Just send me a text message. That'll just be easier on both of us, Congrats, Lazy Klein on level 1. Nice. It's a long story, which I will save Thesis from having to read. I'll just post it on Facebook. All right. That's probably the one place that I won't be completely disappearing from. I'll probably still post on Facebook. And I might even take, I wrote down what I was going to say tonight because I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to be able to make it through it without losing it. But maybe I'll take what I wrote and also post it on Facebook so that the people who didn't come to this tonight will still know where I am and where I'm not. Good job, Dawn, and everyone else on level 1. Yeah. Texts are great when your house is very big and you're very lazy and don't want to walk all the way. Yeah. We have a kind of sort of intercom system, but we don't ever really use it for that. So we probably should, but again, if you have no voice, then you can't really use that either. So texts are, and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I could maybe 10 steps away from Foxy and Inigo back there. But it's not a bad idea. That too. And Midnight is joining us. Hey, Sword People. Hello, buddy. Oh, thunderstorm rolling in may vanish from the chat. Be safe, Dan. And greetings for me. And be safe, Dan. Yeah. And more greetings for me. Yeah, I figured this was coming. Better than you, perhaps we might have a thing or skill that you don't have or don't have yet, but that doesn't make someone better as a person. Sorry you've been stressing. Yeah. I'm sure that people have, or maybe they didn't, but I'm sure that people have noticed the last couple of weeks in a certain room that shall remain nameless, I have been more quiet than normal. And that's kind of why, because I was afraid that if I said anything, my voice would crack or I would go off on someone who absolutely does not deserve it. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to I don't want to go off on someone because they did or said something that I took personally that had absolutely nothing to do with me whatsoever. So, yeah. need to take care of you. Just know we're thinking you with love. I appreciate that. I really do. And, you know, if you guys don't see me, which you're not going to, just know that I love each and every one of you too. And this is not anything to do with anybody else. This is entirely me and the evil little voice in my head. So, vacation is understandable, yeah. Health break is always acceptable. And it's taken me 2 weeks to realize that, well, not necessarily even to realize, but to accept that I needed time away. You know, when this first started at the beginning of the month, I could have realized then that, hey, maybe you need to, you know, take a step back and reevaluate things and realize the things that you can do that for whatever reason other people don't appreciate or don't realize that you are offering those things to other people. So, and yes, locked phones are garbage. Plus, Samsung holds the contacts in a proprietary format and some of the other data. Yeah. Ironic thing is, it used to be Carl's phone, and he kept saying it never did that when I was using it. There is a quote that I love to throw at people when they're having phone issues. And it's from the TV series Angel. And it's very, very, very early in the series. It might be like within the first 2 or 3 episodes. And Angel is on a cell phone. And I think it's a flip phone. Because it was in the late 90s or early 2000s. He's on a flip phone. And he can't get reception. And he's trying to talk to somebody. And he closes the phone and throws it on the passenger seat. And he's like, I swear, cell phones were invented by a vengeful warlock that just wanted to get back at human beings. And so whenever people are having issues with cell phones, I like to pull that one out. Rebelling against a change in ownership? Well, maybe. Intercom tie a note to Inigo. He doesn't have the greatest recall, though. Inside the house is fine. Inside the house, he doesn't really have very far to go. But outside, we have to keep him on leash or he will just take off. And it's happened a couple of times now that he'll slip his leash and just run around for half an hour, and he keeps running towards the damn road. And I panic and freak out, and I can't get him back. And it's kind of scary. So he now has an actual harness instead of just a leash, and he hasn't been able to slip that yet. Good idea. If he'll sit still long enough. Well, I'm kind of surprised he's not in here right now. He's usually very, very investigative when I'm talking to no one. Okay, so the Terracotta Army. That picture that I put on the thumbnail is a picture of most, well, maybe not even most, but it is a picture of the Terracotta Army. I got it from Wikipedia. Now, before we actually go into the army itself, he's in my lap. Well, part of him is in your lap. I wouldn't say all of him is in your lap because he doesn't fit. But before we talk about the army itself, we kind of have to talk about the man that the army is guarding. So, Qin Shi Huang is the first emperor of China. He was originally, during the Warring States period, the king of the kingdom of Qin. But then he went and basically conquered all of the other kingdoms and unified them into one land, which he named China. Which, if you take the kingdom of Qin, Qin, and he basically unified the entire country. But he was not exactly a smart man. Now, for the time period that he lived in, it was not entirely well known. But when he was getting older, he wanted to keep his power. He didn't want to give up the title of emperor. Now, to go back a little bit, when he was ruling the kingdom of Qin, he was just a king. But when he took over and unified the entire country, instead of maintaining the title of king, he became emperor, a much more celestial title. He was blessed by the heavens to rule the land. And he didn't want to give all that power up. So he went searching for an elixir of immortality. And what he found was mercury. Now, to us now, we go, well, that was stupid. Why would you possibly want to imbibe mercury in any fashion? But he did. He drank mercury. Yeah, exactly. Oops, that doesn't work. Nope. He died. And when he died, because he was such an important person, they created a huge tomb for the emperor. And the legend was that the tomb itself, trying to figure out how to explain this so that you really understand the vastness of this area. The tomb itself was a scale model of China, with his body in the center. And all of the lakes and rivers of the land were mercury. So he had a scale model of the land that he unified, made for his tomb to lay in after he died, and he filled all of the waterways with mercury. Now, for many, many years, millennia, it was kind of a legend. No one actually knew if it was true. But I remember watching a documentary years ago. You can probably still find it online. But it was a documentary about Shǐhuáng, the first emperor of China. And I don't 100% remember if they knew for certain or if they were just fairly sure of where Shǐhuáng's tomb actually was. But there's an area in China that is believed to be the spot where the tomb is. And while the documentary was telling the story of Shǐhuáng, you also had modern day scientists at this location. And they were taking core samples of the grass and the land in that area. And the conclusion of this documentary was they took those core samples to a lab, and what they found was huge deposits of mercury. So they're pretty sure that the stories of Shǐhuáng's tomb and the mercury rivers and lakes of China is actually true. So that is the man that had the Terracotta army made to guard his tomb. He wanted that same power in death that he had in life. So he needed a vast army to defend his final resting place. People in Victorian England did similar things, and strychnine in women's makeup, yeah. And lead to make ultra white, yeah. Victorians also used arsenic as recreational substances, yeah. Which is why wigs were so popular. Everyone lost their hair. True. We are only so smart now thanks to our ancestors putting odd things in their mouths and on their faces. Yeah. Once again, another wonderful little movie quote. And I'm not going to get it 100% right because it's kind of a long one. But just imagine the first person to eat an oyster. How hungry do you have to be to put that in your mouth? It looks disgusting. It smells bad. It looks like something you'd cough up during a bad chest cold. But someone ate it. So in, I want to say the mid-1970s, a couple of Chinese farmers were wanting to build a well. And they were near the area where Shǐhuáng's tomb was believed to be. And yeah. Hey, Grog, I dare you. Well, Grog not die. Food! Yes. While they were digging the well, they hit something very, very hard. And it wasn't just hard dirt. It was something very, very solid. So they dug around it, and they found a stone head. And so they went and found a scholar, a scientist. I'm not sure if it was a geologist specifically or not, but eventually you got geologists out there. And they dug up this stone soldier. And then they found another one. And another one. And they found chariots. And they found horses. And eventually, they had uncovered the vast, vast army of Shǐhuáng. And what people were fascinated by when it comes to this army is that it wasn't just a bunch of stone soldiers. I mean, it absolutely was. But they had different expressions. They had unique faces. It wasn't just like one person modeled a soldier and then all of them looked exactly the same. They were all unique. Every single one of them. Now try to imagine $1,800 years ago. A stonemason carving these soldiers out of a solid block of rock with a hammer and chisel and making each one of them unique, making them have different noses, different eyes, different expressions, facial hair. That had to be an undertaking. And then making chariots and horses. And each of the soldiers also had weapons. You can see it in their hand positioning. You know, I have got my buddy Shinsuke here. The way that his hand is set like that, you can put something in his hand. Go like this. Now he's got a big-ass club. The Terracotta army, their hands were positioned in such a way so as to be holding weapons. And you had different divisions in the army. So you had spearmen, and you had swordsmen, and you had archers. All different units within the army. And all of them had the weapons that they were supposed to have. But grave robbers and just scumbag thieves took all of the weapons. So that when the historians found the army, the army was unarmed. But you could tell by the placement of their hands that they had weapons at one time. One of the shows that I saw, they thought that real soldiers of the time posed for the statues. That is, yeah, that is entirely possible. That's not outside of the realm of possibility. Impossible to tell now. Yeah, it's kind of been, over 1,000 years. The army itself is just a small part of a much larger necropolis that is believed to be around 98 square kilometers. And that's just the necropolis. That's not counting the tomb itself. The tomb is hermetically sealed and probably around 100 meters. But they've never opened the tomb. And that might be because, the air in the entire tomb is just saturated with mercury. So if you open that thing, you might poison people. And that would be, bad. I'm looking for a picture. In the meantime, there were 4 pits that they uncovered that had soldiers in them. And they were 7 or 8 meters deep. And they were laid out facing the tomb itself. The first pit was 700 feet long and contained the main army of at least 3,000 figures. The first pit was the largest of the 4 and has 11 parallel lanes, each one 10 feet wide and paved with bricks and a ceiling to support it. Other pits had your cavalry, your infantry, war chariots. The command officers were in a different pit that had your higher ranking officials. And the 4th pit was empty. We don't know why this one was empty. It's possible that they just ran out of time. The emperor died while they were working on pit 4, and so they just had to kind of, okay, well, we dug the pit, so I don't know. Now, some of the soldiers in the first 2 pits show fire damage. Along with remains of ceiling rafters. So this, along with the missing weapons, have been taken as evidence of looting and burning of the site. The figures that are on display are restorations from the fragments that they found. And that's just the pits with the army in them. Other pits have also been excavated. And those pits are outside the tomb itself. So the army is over here, and the tomb is over here, and the pits around the tomb, they find carriages and figures of entertainers and officials, burial sites of animals and the laborers that built the necropolis, and an underground park. So the entire site, including the tomb itself, has all kinds of burial artifacts around it. Now, the figures themselves come in different styles. You have the warriors, which are basically life size for the time, so between 5 and 6 feet. But the higher ranking people are usually the tallest. They vary in height, uniform, and hairstyle based on the rank. And the faces are different, like I said, for each individual figure. Scholars have identified 10 to 12 base forms, which then you add, like I said, different noses, different facial hair, different eye shape. The figures that are generally warriors are infantry, cavalrymen, charioteers, crossbowmen, which were usually kneeling instead of standing. And then you had kneeling archers and standing archers. But the uniforms are different based on the ranks. Some may have shin guards, some may not. Some may have longer pants, some may have shorter pants. Originally, the figures were actually painted. But because this is almost 2,000 years old, the paint has worn away. But the scientists were able to find traces of bones, iron oxide, cinnabar, malachite, charcoal, azurite, tree sap, And all of these were ground up to make the colors of the paintings. Oh, Trey is joining us. Hey, Trey, how's it going? Oh, look, we have a kickbot. No, I'm not buying followers. Please go away. And more greetings for Trey. Now, the acrobats and the entertainers are going to look vastly different from the soldiers. They are usually dressed much simpler. And most of the ones that they have found now are incomplete. They're missing heads. They're missing hands. But based on the body types, scholars have theorized that these are entertainers. They're usually very thin, which would be, good for acrobats at the time. But others were very large, and those were probably not acrobats. They were just entertainers. They had very obvious musculature, and joints that set them apart from the soldiers in the other pits. Now, as I said before, most of the figures held real live weapons. These were not stone. These were actual steel, well, bronze probably at the time, weapons. But the majority of them were probably looted shortly after the army's creation, or if they were wood, they brought it away. However, 40,000 bronze weapons have been recovered, including swords, daggers, battle axes, shields, crossbows, crossbow triggers, lances, and quite a few arrowheads. Some of the weapons were coated in a layer of chromium dioxide that they believe have protected them from decay. So that would definitely explain how some of these weapons have survived for over 2,000 years. Yes, charcoal. Can you imagine the spectacle of that in all its glory? Then it's all covered up. Yep. And more greeting for Trey. Only vaguely, but it's impressive. It's very impressive. They have found entire suits of armor, again, bronze, lamellar armor, helmets. They found burial suits. There's one fairly famous picture, and that's the picture I'm looking for. It is a jade burial suit. I actually got to see this in person, which I'll get to in a minute. see if this one will work. Yeah, that's good enough. We'll go with that one. All of these pieces, all of these squares are jade. This is a burial suit. Kind of sort of form of almost mummification. I actually got to see that in person. Now, another picture is showing you the mausoleum itself. So let's bring this one up. Yeah, someone took a lot of time to do that to Jade. Yeah. Here you have the mausoleum of Shǐhuáng. This tiny little square over here is the Terracotta Army compared to the mausoleum itself. And right in here, this square right here, is where Qin Shi Huang's body and the scale model of China with the Mercury rivers and lakes is located. Right here. Now, if you try to imagine that picture that I took of the army is only this big compared to the size of the mausoleum itself. It's tiny compared to the mausoleum. That thing is massive. And this is massive. But this is massiver. But that is the Terracotta Army of Qin Shi Huang. Hey, Dave. Konnichiwa is Japanese. You should say ni hao. Ni hao is Chinese. Now I get to tell you about my experience with the Terracotta Army of Qin Shi Huang. Many years ago, possibly in the, there you go, ni hao, the mid to late 90s, possibly. It also could have been the early 2000s. It's been a while ago. There was a traveling display about the Terracotta Army that came to BYU. And I got to go and see it. And you get there, and this alone goes to show you how long ago this was. They give you a Walkman. And you put wired headphones on, plug it into the Walkman, and there's a cassette tape. So instead of having an actual guide to take you around, you had a cassette tape on a Walkman. And you could go through the museum at your own pace. So once you got to a section, you'd listen to that section and then you'd shut the tape off. so that you could just look at the area you're currently in. And then when you're ready to move on, you play the tape again. And greetings from Dave. Yeah, it was a Sony Walkman. It absolutely was. And somewhere, yeah, it really does. Somewhere I have a little booklet. It was a study guide that the college was given by this traveling exhibit to give out to kids that told you all about the army and Shǐhuáng and the burial suit. Somewhere, I still have that book, that study guide. I was going to look for it. And then the whole, imposter syndrome thing happened and whatever. But somewhere in this apartment, I still have that study guide. But I got to go and see this traveling exhibit. And I got to see some of the Terracotta Army. I got to see a handful of soldiers. I got to see a horse and a chariot. That was our best tech in the 80s. Yes, but this was in the 90s and the 2000s, possibly the early 2000s. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I got to see the burial suit. And when we left, of course, they had a small gift shop. And I got a tiny little scale soldier that was made out of terracotta stone. Now, I don't have that soldier anymore. And it really, really upsets me. Because yes, it was very cool. It was definitely once in a lifetime. And it was more than fascinating. I had already been on my journey on learning Chinese history. So that when I heard they were going to go see this in person, I was ecstatic. I was thrilled. I could not wait for that day to get there. And Foxy, it would have been awesome to have you along because I was stuck with my severely religious uncle, aunt, and his kids and my parents who just wanted to rush through everything, and I wanted to take my time and enjoy myself. So if you'd have been there with me, maybe I could have actually been able to take my time a little bit more. But, as I said, I don't have that soldier anymore. Because my asshole of a sister decided it would be funny to take one of my most prized possessions at the time, because she was mad at me because I had had the audacity to be annoyed at hearing All My Life by Casey and JoJo for the 4 millionth time. I had the audacity to tell her to play another damn song on the CD. That's it. I didn't take the CD. I didn't break the CD. I just told her to play something else. And for the gall of me telling her that, she took my little terracotta soldier out of my room when I was in the shower one day. and she wouldn't give it back. Now, this alone annoyed me a great deal. She hid it somewhere in my parents' house, and she wouldn't give it back. So eventually, I had to threaten to take things away from her. And eventually, she gave it back to me. Snapped in half. She broke it. It was never hidden. She broke it. And instead of just coming clean and admitting that she broke it because she was pissed off at me because I was sick of hearing the same damn song over and over and over again, she claimed that she hid it from me. But she broke it. Now, I could have attempted to glue it back together, but I was so enraged when she pulled out my tiny little stone soldier snapped in half. When she put it in my hand, I threw it at her. I'll admit it. It wasn't my best moment, but I was a teenager. I was angry, and I threw it at her. Now, I missed. She was only a couple of feet away from me, so it probably wouldn't have hurt that much for if I actually would have hit her. But I missed. It hit the bedroom wall and shattered. It was terracotta. It was stone. It was brittle. And so when it hit the wall, just poof, it shattered. And again, I probably could have attempted to get the remaining pieces and glue those back together, but some of them literally exploded into powder. So there wouldn't really have been a point in trying to get it back. Yes, it is extremely fragile. So when it hit the wall, there were literally some pieces that just powdered, just gone. So it was gone. Wish I had seen King Tut's exhibit when I was a little older than when I did. Didn't appreciate it as much as I could have. Yeah, that's why I was glad that I was a teenager when I was able to go see it. And I had already begun, my journey into Chinese history and martial arts. Because, nobody else cared. Nobody else cared. Which is why I was so surprised that they wanted to go. It's like, you invited me to come along with you to this, and you don't care? Why are you even here? But that is my story. That is my experience with the Terracotta Army of Shǐhuáng. I got to see it. I got to see parts of it. I got to experience it. Definitely consider one of my top 5 experiences in my life. But it is also tainted by the fact that my one my one relic, my one memory Oh, geez, what's the word? Yeah. That tiny little statue is gone. And I can't get it back. I'll never be able to get it back. Thank you, Trey. Thank you. Souvenir. Yes. Very cool, and learned about the weapons, which I didn't know. Yeah. Yes, my one little souvenir that I could look at for years on end to remember that experience is gone. I can't replace it. I can never get it back. But this here, this stream, I can always come back to this. I can come back to this and I can rewatch it and I can remember what I got to see. And it was very, very cool. But that is all for today. Like I said at the beginning, you probably won't see me around for a little while. But I'll be back. I will be back. Couldn't think of the word either. Well, I guess at least I'm not the only person. Get to remember that you were able to share the memory with us. Yes. I will be back at some point, maybe in a week. Well, not in a week, maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in 3 weeks. But I will be back. And I love my sword family. And I will see everyone next time. 再见。